do the clap thing. I just recorded this entire video with my mic off, and now I gotta do it again. I'm finally doing it. I'm doing the tutorial series on how I make visuals. This is all very subjective, so this is just how I do stuff. Obviously, all types of people do things differently. Somebody's gonna have a better way of doing it than me, I'm sure. But this is just how I do it. This video series is going to be assuming that you know how to use Blender to some degree, because that's the program that I'm using. I am planning on making a Blender Basics tutorial in the future, but for right now, this is what we're doing. Very first thing that I do, go into my video editing tab, go to the first frame of my animation, so frame 1, and then just drag the song that I want to make the video to. Just drag it into this little section. You'll see this big blue strip. I click display waveform, and then go to the very end of the strip, Control T, and that'll tell me the frame that it's on. Set that to my end frame. So I'll probably do like 850 frames. Typically, I like to have my workspace and my rendered panel. So I use my left for my workspace just because I can see things a little bit easier, and then my left is a rendered panel. So I just turn on my render and leave it there. I usually work in Eevee at 256 samples. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to import an object to be the main focus, just so that we can see the camera movement. Actually going to turn off the render so we can just see the camera movement. Next, I'm going to set up a camera. So the camera that I use is going to be a dolly rig camera. It's just a preset in Blender. The reason I use it is because it comes with these little bones. If you go into pose mode, you can grab these bones and move them around like any other armature. So I'll set it up, hit 0 on my numpad on my camera screen, and get a good frame. Typically I'll have this little aim a little bit farther back than my center object, and just kind of set up a camera frame. I usually use this little guy right here to move, just to move back and forth a little bit, just to kind of like set the frame. So get it to where it looks good. Now that we have our camera and object set up, I want to be able to see the waveform of the song that I'm working with. So I'll come right here, hit horizontal split, make a split right there, kind of like fix that a bit. Click on this guy, go into video sequencer, and now you can see this. So now you're able to see, if you zoom in enough, you're able to see like the individual kicks and snares. That's what we're going to be animating to. What I typically like to do is go into pose mode, and I will animate the camera, this little offset bone. I'll animate that pulsating to the kick and snare. So come in here to these little bones, make a keyframe on the kick. I typically animate in the graph editor, but you can animate in whatever you want. One frame out, bring it in on the y-axis, keyframe again, and now just copy and paste the first one so it goes back to normal. And now, see, now you got a kick. What I like to do is use the back interpolation mode because it gives a nice little kick, or it gives a nice little bounce to it. And then I just copy and paste this over all of the kicks and snares. I do animate everything manually, so this process takes a little while. But the more you do, the faster you get at it. Or the more you do this, the faster you get at it. So I just copy and paste all of this stuff. And then typically it works out okay. You might have to go in and manually edit some stuff. Might have to manually go in and edit some keyframes, but it's usually fine. Okay, so now that you have it lined up, now you have a little camera bump. Fun. So now what I like to do is add some camera movement, kind of like dynamic camera movement to make the camera feel like it's being held by somebody. So I'll select this little camera aim port right here, go into the bone sections, create keyframes on the Z and X axis. And this you have to do in the graph editor. Select Z location, hit N on your keyboard, add modifiers, noise, scale 35, strength 0.5. Same thing with the X location. Copy this to your clipboard, paste it to the X location, change the offset by however much you want, mess with the phase, mess with the depth, and now this little guy moves around, giving it kind of a handheld feel. If you want to go even farther, you can choose this little offset that we animated and do the same thing with rotation and just play with that till it feels natural. I typically use 175 for the scale and a strength of like 0.2 maybe. And so now it looks like somebody's holding the camera. See, look at that. We're almost done. Now the reason that I only animate on this offset and the little camera aim thing is because I like to use this for dynamic shots. This camera bone. Because now I can move this in and out however I want to. So now I can say if I want halfway through this animation for this to move up and get closer to the camera, I can do that. And I can just make that keyframe, come in here and I can adjust the curves a little bit. And I can even make it go in on beat if I want to. Or even make it closer. It gives me a lot of control. It's why I use this camera rig. These cords are going everywhere. Yeah, this is basically how I do my camera movements. Sometimes I'll add like a little camera shake. So I'll just turn that off. Come into the first frame. Make a location on the x-axis. I'll zoom in on that. And duplicate that a couple of times over the next few frames, and then I just move them and make sure they all come out here. Kind of make a curve like this. So now the camera looks like it's being like hit, like with the bass. And now I'll just copy and paste that on every single kick and snare. And now it's a lot more dynamic. That's basically how I do camera movement. I know that it takes some time because you have to manually keyframe everything and set up the noise modifiers and stuff, but relatively it's not that bad. I don't know how often I'm going to be uploading on this series. I'm just going to kind of upload whenever I can. Next I might touch on lighting and light setups and stuff like that, and we'll touch on that when it comes to it. But for now, go make some cool stuff.